is ABAP-based SAP system in that additional application server instance is one of the instance. We called as additional application server instance, or in shortcut we called as AS instance. So it is not a mandatory instance. It is not a mandatory instance. Not a mandatory instance means compulsory. We no need to install additional application server instance. It is required. We have requirement means we want to install additional application server instance. There is no requirement means we no need to install additional application server instance. What is the requirement? Why we want to install and everything? When installing time, I tell that one. Okay. Now additional application server instance is one of the instance. It is also. So here we saw additional application server instance. Okay, here we hide this one additional. We hide additional. Now read remaining detailing application server instance. That means it is also application server instance like primary application server instance. Additional application server instance also is one of the application server instance. In ABAP-based SAP system, how many application server instances is available? How many application server instances is available? 2. One is primary application server instance. Primary means main, first application server instance. That means after installing primary application server instance, we want to install additional application server instance. Another application server instance means additional application server instance. What is available inside primary application server instance? Same is available inside additional application server instance. That means in additional application server instance also work process is available. What is available inside primary application server instance? Same will be available inside additional application server instance. Here we saw. So I'm opening additional application server instance. That's one. So that is additional application server instance. So in additional application server instance, dispatcher is there. IGS watchdog, internet graphics server watchdog is there. Gateway is there. Internet communication manager is there. Here primary application server instance. In primary application server instance also, dispatcher is there. IGS watchdog is there. Gateway is there. ICM is there. So here work process also is there in additional application server instance. Same work process what is available inside primary. Okay, same work process, dialog, update, background, spool, update too. In primary application server instance also same work process. That means what is available inside primary application server instance, same is available inside additional application server instance. These two only application server instances in ABAP-based SAP system. In application server instances only, work process is available. So two important points all of you know. In application server instance only, work process is available. In which instance work process is available? In that instance only, user login is possible. In which instance work process is available? In that instances only user login is possible. That means in a primary application server instance, in additional application server instances only user login is possible. In ACS instance, user login is not possible. In ACS instance, user login is not possible. Why means ACS instance is not a application server instance. That's why in AHCF instance, user login is not possible. In application server instances only, user login is possible. So in primary application server instance, in additional application server instance only, user login is possible. Additional application server instance is not a mandatory instance. You have requirement means you want to install. We don't have requirement means we no need to install additional application server instance. Without additional application server instance, maintaining the SAP system is possible. So that one. So, and another important point, after installing primary application server instance only, we are installing additional application server instance. Here, in this system, I installed ACS instance, database, primary application server instance, I install in this system. I want to install additional application server instance in separate system is possible. We install. Or otherwise, like this. Primary application server instance and additional application server instance we install in same system also. Here I installed database, ACS instance, primary application server instance, additional application server instance in same system. Like that, here I installed database, ACS instance, primary application server instance. Now I want to install additional application server instance in separate system. Like that also is possible. Another important point, here I installed primary application server instance. Now I want to install another primary application server instance in this SAP system. So it is not possible. Only one primary application server instance installation is possible in SAP system. Only one primary application server instance installed is possible in SAP system. Only one primary application server instance only installed is possible in SAP system. Like that, for additional application server instance, is there rule? No. No rule like primary application server instance to additional application server instance. That means there is no rule to additional application server instance like primary application server instance. We install so many additional application server instances. In company, they are installed for production system, they're maintaining 50 to 20 additional application server instances. So that is about additional application server instance. So here next, so when we installing additional application server instance, on the time I explain clearly again why we are installing additional application server instance, what is the requirement, for what requirement we want to install additional application server instance. On the time I explain clearly, when installing time I show you how to install step by step and explain again clearly. So now this is the topic about additional application server instance. This topic is completed.